All right, welcome everybody to the Crash the Net podcast, episode number 4. Today we are going to cover the LGHL award show for season 39. My name is Griz. I'll be your host today. I am joined by co-host Stonewall Civ. Stonewall, how are we doing today?
Doing great.
And we'll get right into this thing. And here we go. Just got a picture for you. The LGHL did award the Stanley Cup a couple weeks ago, and we're going to get into the awards for the regular season here. And we're going to start off with the automatic awards. Of course, these are kind of just the awards that, they write themselves. Nothing has to be decided. They are just awarded as is. And first up, we have the Divisional Champions. And congratulations to the East, Central, North, and West Division Champions. We have the New York Rangers taking the East, the Detroit Red Wings taking the Central, the Seattle Kraken taking the North, and the Arizona Coyotes taking the West. And of course, your President's Trophy awarded to the Seattle Kraken. Stone, what did you see from this season? These teams were all very deserving of this divisional championship.
Definitely a stacked season. Usually, I think a lot of people would agree that summer season's kind of a crapshoot because guys are over the game. They want to kind of mess around and try different playing out of position. So the fact that it was this competitive and there were still this many like top end teams, I found to be a little bit surprising, and it made for a fun season.
Yep, it certainly did. And once again, congratulations to these 4 teams for their divisional champion. And we'll start with the East and West Division champions. And, well, not division, but East and West teams that made it to the finals, starting with the Detroit Red Wings. A great season, first place in their division, 56-19-7 regular season record. Postseason record, 16-5-1. Unbelievable run for them. The Prince of Wales Trophy going to that Detroit Red Wings squad. On the other side, we have the Clarence S. Campbell Bowl, and that goes to the Seattle Kraken, 66-14-2, again, winning the President's Trophy and a postseason record of 14-7. And any thoughts on our East and West champions?
Detroit, definitely a wagon. They were a wagon all year. I don't think it was. We definitely didn't have an upset situation for the East or the Cup. In the West, this was my team. However, I can't really take too much credit for it because my season was a mess in many different ways, and I kind of found my way there in the aftermath of the trade deadline. But it was a good group of guys. They were really fun to play with. I know a bunch of those guys from previous seasons. It was fun to play with Nate all year, who was just an absolute horse in net. It was, like I said, it was a fun season. I think the top end teams that made it deep were the correct teams, and it was nice to see a good group of teams at the top, so that neither one of these trophies was really free for that matter.
Yeah, there was some very good playoff matchups along the way, some great commentary and media for the season as well, and we'll get right into the Stanley Cup champions, the Detroit Red Wings. We have team owner Lemelin teaming up with Boyle, his first season as management on Xbox, taking away the Stanley Cup. And their AGM this season was King Clutch. And we'll go through the roster. They had Boyle, Tsunami, Youngren, Spars, Tricky, Cohen, Freak, Keenis, and Tino. Of course, Tino getting his 3rd cup. The old man won his last couple cups when there wasn't many teams in the league, and this one means a lot for him. And the defensive group for this lineup was Jersades and Lemelin, Doughty and King Clutch, CNU Marty and Charizan, and in net, none other than Jones and Crisper. And the Conn Smythe Trophy is awarded to Boyle. He had an unbelievable run for this squad and did play most of, if not all, those playoff games with Lemelin, but certainly found a way to put the puck in the back of the net when it mattered most. A couple of Game 7 wins as well. And just congratulations to those guys. What do you have on the Stanley Cup champions?
Stacked team, top to bottom, especially in the forward category. I wasn't really familiar with Crisper, but I'm pretty sure he was one. I think I did play against him in the Stanley Cup final, and he was definitely a solid goalie. A lot of talent on the forward end. I mean, the defense goes without saying. Charzan's a pretty good right D man, even though he's playing out of position. So I mean, honestly, they had 3 pretty solid lines. No matter who you were getting lined up against. If Detroit was on your schedule, you were in trouble.
Yeah, Nuge, that's a good point. They did only have that one Game 7. Tampa gave them the hardest run, and they kind of rolled over everybody else. And We'll get right on to some of our other automatic awards, and we'll start with the offensive stat leaders. AG7859 taking home both the Maurice Rocket Richard and the Art Ross most points and most goals. And what do you have to say about AG's season? Obviously a teammate of yours down the stretch.
AG's a freak, man. He and I have joked around a few times that I really wish I could play with him in esports, but it's never gonna happen because he plays out so far away from the East servers for me. But I was, being a goalie, you don't pay attention to things like this that much, but I was unaware before coming here what kind of a run he was on, and then I checked out my new teammates, and it got my attention, and he was on a record-setting pace pretty much the whole year.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, 70 goals for someone that plays on West Ping is just unbelievable. Great season for him, and we'll move into our next one. And on the next one, we have our plus-minus awards, both offensive and defensive. Offensive going to Melvin X94, teammate of who we just said, AG, and yours as well. And he finished with a plus 70, unbelievable marker. Hey guys, apologies for the hard cut there. The stream dropped for a few seconds. This caused the last slide to cut out early and the next slide to cut in late. Want to send our congratulations to Huvu on winning the defensive plus-minus award. That's the section of the last clip that did get cut out early. On the next slide, we present the King Clancy Memorial Trophy, and this is our NHL Media Award. I just wanted to make this slide real quick to let you guys know what was going on between the last slide and the next slide. And thanks, guys, and enjoy the rest of the podcast. And this is our Media Award. And the Media Award going to Swifty for his contributions on No Thumbs Live. And it's really, this is an automatic award because nobody else has done media, and Swifty has been that pillar for all three leagues, not just the NHL. So certainly deserving of this award. Anything to say on Swifty and No Thumbs?
Yeah, this was definitely a no-brainer. I mean, in terms of consistency, he's been the one guy that we can count on to at least always have some sort of video content. Video content is definitely not as abundant as maybe the write-ups usually are, but I mean, if not for him, there'd likely be nothing. And I know he's got a huge following with the C, and he does a lot with the AHL and the NHL right now that a lot of guys are very appreciative. So it goes without saying that this award is backed by pretty much everybody behind the site.
Yeah, certainly a unanimous decision, and that's kind of why it's an automatic award. And we'll keep moving on. Now we have the committee awards. So this season, we were tasked with building a committee. We had a committee of 9 or 10 people, and we had some great discussions along the way. And obviously, not everybody agreed on every award. And we had great discussions, and then we put it to a vote once everybody had the chance to speak. And that's kind of the layout that we had for these awards. And we'll start right away with the management awards for S39. The Jack Adams going to Flames over in Chicago, a team that was not predicted to do well at all, found a way to bring an AHL team and win 51 games is just extremely impressive. So before we move on to the GM of the Year award, I want to get your thoughts on the Jack Adams going to Flames with the runner-up being Coach Denham from the Buffalo Sabres. If you want to have a couple words on those two.
Being a goalie, you're not privy to the manager's chat hardly ever, even in seasons when you play out of position. So I'm a little less familiar in terms of like the behind the scenes things and a lot of the conversations that go on throughout the week. But not only did I agree with both of these selections, I have to say in the voting process they were both unanimous, and that really can't go. That can't be said any less. That both of these guys really impressed. I think the only the other close competitor for these awards was New Jersey. But just, correct me if I'm wrong, Chicago literally had nothing coming into the season. So the finish that they ended with, considering the assets they started with, no brainer.
Yeah, they had not much to work with coming into the season, and just a great job by Flames to get his team into playoffs. And moving on to the Jim Gregory GM of the Year award. So the way that we're announcing this award, it's going to Twistified. And what we did is we looked around the league and kind of, looked at who worked the most as a GM and what GM contributed to their team's success the most. And it's Twist. Twist ran this team day and night, did everything he could to get his squad into playoffs as well. And our runner-up for this award is going to Hendry from the Columbus Blue Jackets, who also worked the phones and tried as best as he could to get his team into playoffs. who missed out despite, would have finished second place in every other division. I think they had a top 5, if not top 6 record in the whole league, but so Hendry missed out, and Twist more than deserving. His team made playoffs, and rightfully so. Any words on Twistified?
This was kind of a no-brainer too. I mean, Twist takes this a lot more serious than other guys do, and that's not really like a snarky comment. I mean, bad owners, bad GMs ruin this for everybody. So when somebody takes it this serious in terms of engagement, of just like making yourself available, he alone is like top of the ladder pretty much, any given season. Ever since he's gotten ownership, GM spots, he's always been, top 5, top 10, always, in terms of return guys that you would hope to come back, because I mean, it can't be said enough. Bad owners and bad GMs really are the easiest thing to make a season go bad for, 20 plus guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to address some comments in chat. So LaFleur asking about Arizona. Arizona was in the conversation, but they did have some good pieces coming back, and also had management come in that had higher expectations, and they met those expectations. So the way that we awarded the Jack Adams was really a team that completely impressed us, a team that was not supposed to do good coming into the season, and a team that blew away all expectations. But the Yotes were in the conversation because of the season that the Yotes did have, but just missed out to Buffalo and Chicago in that end. And then Heber saying Heber got snaked. Well, I mean, you guys missed playoffs, and that's kind of what it came down to. You guys basically threw the last week of the season, and you would have been very close in the discussion had you made playoffs, but we all know what happened there, and that's why the runner-up ended up being the Sabres.
Yeah, like we said on the ownership one, the correct me if I'm wrong, but the top 3 were Chicago, Buffalo, and New Jersey, and the thing that really put Chicago over the edge was the fact that they literally came into the season with nothing.
Yep, absolutely. We will keep moving right along. We have the Bill Masterton Trophy, and this one's going to Matt 4for4. The Bill Masterton is awarded to the player who best exemplifies the quality of perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey. And there's not many better people in this league than Matt, and Matt's certainly deserving of this award. And while his teams haven't been good, he hasn't really forfeited many games. I think he forfeited 1 game down the stretch this season for a team that wasn't in it at the end. So guys were still showing up for him, and he was doing everything he could to really rally his team around, despite not having a good outcome season after season. And again, just a very nice guy and one of the better genuine people in the league, and definitely awarded it to him. And the runner-up was KS Krish, who's been on Minnesota all season and still played, I think, 90% of his games. I think he played 24 out of 27, so missing 1 week. And so KS Krish, the runner-up for that, and congrats to Matt. Any words on that one, Stone?
Yeah, without repeating myself on what I said to Twist, the exact same thing applies to him. Matt's a great guy. I don't really know anybody that dislikes him. I was a teammate of his for a very short time, my rookie season, and he's a very pleasant guy. Always nice to deal with, always nice to talk with. He's always on. So he's not one of those guys that prefers to play with certain people. He's happy to play with whoever, and that really shows with his, like you were saying, with his ability to get through a season with not many forfeits.
Yep, and thank you to the follow to Still Alive 06. We'll move on to our next award. And now we are awarding the Calder Memorial Trophy, awarded to the league's best rookie. And you look at the stats, Pure 93 just had one hell of a season. He had all the wins. He had 30 points. And he had a pretty tough schedule as well. Played a lot of playoff teams and won a lot of those games against playoff teams. Had a ton of interceptions, great defensive stats. And our runner-up for this award, Magic Illusions from the Arizona Coyotes. Jordan, thank you for the follow as well. And Magic Illusions, I think he lost 1 regular season game. He didn't play as tough of a schedule as Pure, and that's kind of a lot of these awards came down to strength of schedule, but both of them were deserving. This one was close, but everyone kind of voted Pure number 1, Magic Illusions number 2. Any words on both of these candidates?
Yeah, we had a short debate on it, but when it came down to voting, this was pretty unanimous. Everybody was in agreement with the season he had.
As Pug says Rob, Tsunami says snubbed. And we keep chugging on here. And
there's definitely a few awards that you could give a handful of guys that say that they were robbed.
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely a lot of awards that really came down to the wire. I talk about the discussions that we had. This one, not so much of a discussion, though, is the Lady Byng awarded to the player with the best combined sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct / ability. This one is basically the player that had a really good season with low PIMS. That's a genuinely nice guy. And Nude says Tendy shouldn't be the Lady Byng winner. He's very mean. Well, the committee disagreed. We find that Tendy's a very nice person, deserving of this award, had low PIMS, had a great season, and runner-up Karma. And Karma seems like it's someone who's always in the mix, and season in, season out, it seems like, it's kind of the same group of people that are always in the mix for the Lady Byng. And this season going to Tendy. What's your thoughts on that, Stone?
I do recall both of these were pretty unanimous. We were all pretty much in agreement that Tendy should win it and that Karma should be runner-up. Both super nice guys. Never had a poor experience with either of them. They're pleasant to play. They're pleasant to play with. That's a tongue twister. Pleasant to play with. Pleasant to speak with. Regarding whatever matter that you have to talk to them about. Is like I said, these were no-brainers.
And we'll keep moving right along. Now we have the goaltender awards. One of these is an automatic award, so we'll start with that one, the William M. Jennings Trophy, awarded to the best goaltender combo with the lowest goals allowed in a minimum of 25 games played. This one going to Nate Seuss and Stonewall Civ. Stonewall, obviously you were traded there, I believe, at deadline or week 5, so week 5 or 6, and then Nate Seuss, 45-1, and he had great stats this season, and 40 wins, certainly remarkable. Not enough for him to win the Vezina, and I will get into that in a second. I do want you to speak on behalf of Nate being your teammate, and what did you see out of him down the stretch? You got traded there, and you stepped into the backup role, and you said, listen, this is Nate's team. I'm going to show up for my 3 games or whenever I'm scheduled, and I'm fine with that. Nate, go chase your 40 wins, and he got it.
Yep, that was definitely a conversation that I had right when I got there with him. I was like, listen, this is you're on a run, take it. I don't care if I get 3 games a week, just this is your team. And as far as that goes with the award as well, you and I haven't really spoken about this, but we may need to revisit this moving forward because I don't feel that I should have been included in that, especially where I came in with the half season. Maybe we revisit this in the future where whoever, if a team has more than one goalie, because I can't imagine that this award has gone to too many goalies where they trade for somebody at the deadline. So maybe down the road we start giving this to if there's a way to assign them to the players, maybe the guy that stays on the team, the 2 guys that were on the team the longest probably should get the award, because I don't think I was on the team the second longest amount of time. I think there was somebody else, but their name escapes me right now.
Yeah, and we'll move right into the Vezina, and immediately Pug says he was robbed, and I disagree because Alls led him in every single category: wins, save percentage, goals against, shutouts. I mean, you weren't robbed. You had a great season, Pug. I will give you that. For as much as I've called you would, you really did put together a nice season on a team that wasn't, a top team. So you definitely deserve props for that. And without further ado, Alls gets this one. Alls unbelievable season, 33-9-6, 831 save percentage. Again, on a team that was not first place. While this team was very good, they were not a first place, a team that was just slaughtering everybody, and below a 2 goals against as well. And I do want to remind everybody that Alls started the season on Nashville, a bottom feeder team, and it didn't impact his stats. He still finished with an unbelievable stat line, and we'll move on to a runner-up going to Husky. And Husky was very close in stats. I believe he was tied in shutouts. He had 1 less win, a little bit less save percentage as well, but was right there. And this was a tough one, but it was unanimous because Alls did lead those categories a little bit more, but Husky very deserving of the runner-up.
Unanimous vote, but it should be said that this was highly contested for a period of time because we were trying to figure out a bunch of different things. It was definitely down to Alls and Husky at one point, which is saying a lot to Nate, considering that he had a 40-win season and he's not even going to get the runner-up on this. That really goes to speak to how how crazy of a season Alls and Husky had.
Yeah, and Nate definitely number 3, but we look at the 40 wins, and it came down to advanced stats for kind of the runner up, because we were discussing Husky and Nate had significantly higher goal support in both wins and losses, and in his losses he was giving up far more goals. So it's kind of just something where our discussion led us to vote for Husky on that runner up, and we'll move right along to our next award, the Frank J. Selke awarded to the best defensive forward in the league, going to Jared, and the runner-up going to I'm Lazy from the Arizona Coyotes. And this was another absolute battle of a discussion between our committee. We were split for a long time, and we had to go into really a deep dive into strength of schedule and really what lines these guys were playing. And it came up that Jared just flat out played the better strength of schedule, and their stats were very close, and we went with Jared. And I will say Sack was kind of our third guy on this one, but having a 46% on the draw really hurt him, as we don't believe that the Selke Trophy can go to someone with, under a 50%, and that's kind of one of our minimum gauges. But Jared and Lazy, both very deserving of this award. It came down to the committee vote. The committee voted for Jared based off of the strength of schedule. Lazy had a phenomenal season as well defensively. And while he had a decent strength of schedule, Jared had a pretty big gauntlet. So we went with Jared on this after the vote.
Yeah, I don't recall which specific part of the strength of schedule was the tiebreaker, whether it was the strength of schedule in wins or losses, because we did end up dividing it between those two. Because this one was close. This one was definitely close. Zach probably would have got a lot more consideration had it not been for the bad face-off percentage. But yeah, this one was really, really close, and strength of schedule is literally the only thing that was going to be the decision maker on this, because until we got to that point, it was looking like Lazy was going to take it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that, Lazy and LaFleur are obviously upset in chat, and the thing they got to realize is if you have a guy who has a similar stat line that has played a harder schedule and is playing tougher lines each week, that is probably the player that the committee is going to vote for. And, it's not just about what guy had the most stats, because it's really, who you play with and who you play against. So if the stats are similar, a lot of these awards came down to strength of schedule. And we'll move right along from the Selke and into the Norris. And the Norris winner, Lemelin, had a phenomenal season, stats everywhere, basically leading categories in multiple categories. And the runner-up going to Dumoulin. I know Arizona's not going to be happy on this one either. But again, Lemelin's strength of schedule was unbelievable, and it was not comparable to anybody else in the league. And again, you're going to be upset, LaFleur, but it was not close compared to Dumoulin at all. Yeah, Lemelin played first lines playoff all season. Dumoulin played one playoff team's first line this season. To put that into perspective.
That was definitely the deciding factor. This was it came down to strength of schedule, but like you were saying, when we compared strength of schedule, this was even more of a sizable edge to Lemelin than it was in the last award that we just did.
And the only times Lemelin did not play first or second lines, he was with his third line. So that was something that was also considered. And another thing, Dumoulin had a great season. He had 48 points, but it's not simply an award you just give to someone who had the most points. Strength of schedule really does matter. And if the only stat that someone leads is 4 points, again, I believe each of these candidates had 4 categories over one another. So it has to go to the guy that just had a significantly more difficult schedule. And this season, I mean, had Doughty played every game, he would have ran away with the Norris. It would not have been close. Doughty had 17 wins and 48 points, missing 2 weeks. Had he got to that 20 win mark, there would have been zero discussion. He would have been the unanimous winner. But of course, this one going to Lem. And yeah, Dumoulin, I mean, it's not necessarily your fault. You don't pick the lines you play, but it is considered for the committee on what's more impressive. And for us, the schedule that Lemelin ran this season was by far the most impressive thing, along with his stat line.
Yeah, so, especially with this being the summer season, the strength of schedule had to be the unanimous tiebreaker on basically everything, because that when we brought that into the picture, it made really close contested votes way less close, because then once you saw who played who, it made a lot more sense to go with certain people over others.
Absolutely. We'll keep chugging along here. Moving into our Hart, going to Ethan C with the runner-up going to Readers. While the vote ended up being unanimous, we had multiple people that abstained from this vote. Obviously, myself being on the committee, I abstained because Ethan is a teammate, and a couple others abstained as well. And this one was, while the vote was unanimous, it was extremely close. I mean, you could cut this one with a knife one way or the other. They had very similar seasons, carrying, relatively equal teammates as well. And I think these by far were the two most important members of their respective teams. And I really don't think that there was anyone else even in the discussion because of the season that these two were able to put together. But the vote went towards Ethan C, and Ethan comes out with it. And his ability to carry the players that he played with this season, played, up and down the lineup. When he had to play in a Game 7, he played in that Game 7 line. And what I mean by that is, even in the regular season, when, Detroit showed their Game 7 and Tampa showed their Game 7, Ethan plugged into that lineup no problem. And other weeks, he was asked to carry our worst forwards, and he was able to do that as well. And Readers, I mean, the same thing can be said for Readers, and this is just one of those things that came down to the vote, and it went Ethan's way this time.
It's probably the closest vote in terms of skaters for pretty much all the reasons that you said.
And moving on from the Hart, we'll move into our Ted Lindsay. The Ted Lindsay awarded to the most outstanding player of the league. This one going to Boyle, the runner-up going to Melvin, and the same situation that we had with the Norris applied for the Ted Lindsay. While what Melvin did was unbelievable, he did not play a tough schedule at all, and Boyle had an even tougher schedule than Lem did, and having 95 points with the schedule he played is just, I mean, you tip your hat to it, and I don't think a single person voted for anyone but Boyle for this one.
Yeah, this one was unanimous. This one definitely was not close. It's kind of crazy to look back on it, especially the fact that they ended up winning the whole thing. How good Detroit's schedule was.
Yeah, a cup, a Conn Smythe, and the Ted Lindsay. I mean, just like I said, tip your hat to Boyle, and what a season it was. You see the shooting at 41.2% for someone that scored over 50 goals.
That's insane.
Is just remarkable, to say the least. And Heber, absolutely right. Melvin did scrub hunt, and it honestly was not close for this one. When you look at the schedules, it was almost complete opposites. I think Boyle basically had the stats that Melvin had against non-playoff teams, like the bottom feeders that were more than 10 points out of playoffs. And while we didn't even need to do a deep dive in this one, we simply looked at the playoff and non-playoff teams, and that was it. And the Scrub Hunter Award, Tino, that basically is your most points, most goals award. And they were awarded for that, and they got to the cup final, and they were shut down in the cup final. And he says it's embarrassing at this point, ban the Scrub Hunters. No, they don't need to be banned. You show up to your games, and I believe that's it. So any closing comments from you, Stone? That will, conclude. It was just a very quick podcast today, going through the awards, handing out some hardware. Do you have anything for our viewers?
No, this was fun. This was my first time being a part of this, and it's interesting to see the mindsets of other guys, because obviously as a goalie, there's certain things that you focus on, and there was a lot of good points that people would bring up that I otherwise wouldn't have really considered in terms of, Hart, rookie, certain strength of schedule elements. So it was a lot of fun, and it can't be said enough that it was really nice to see a lot of competitive teams this year, considering that it was a summer season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And we have some comments in the chat. Tsunami ban Griz for being Griz, ban Dowdy for collusion. I mean, it is what it is, and guys are going to play the guys that they want to, and that's part of having, the opportunity to write your own schedule. And, there's nothing you can really do about it. You're going to pick your schedule based off of your team's eval. If your guys are giving you good eval, you're going to pick the easier matchups. That's just what some people do. And you can't blame them for it. It is what it is. But moving forward, our next podcast, guys, will be on Tuesday night, 9:30 p.m. We are going to cover the first 2 rounds of the Kings Coast Cup playoffs, and then we will also do our predictions for round 3. So don't miss that. We will be live Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. We will have some interviews coming up. Not exactly sure when we're going to start scheduling those, but rest assured they are coming up. We will have Brody on here shortly too in the next couple of weeks, and he's going to dive into everything ESHL. As Heber says, roll Phantoms. Phantoms have been buzzing. I got to tip their hat for that. And we'll talk about that in the next podcast as well, Heber. So tune in. And again, if you guys have questions for Brody specifically about ESHL, hit me or Stonewall in the DMs, and we'll make sure that we ask him when we bring him on.
Yeah, definitely send over questions, because I got a couple questions I'm probably going to have to hold back on.
Yeah, for sure. And that'll do it for our podcast today, fellas. This has been the LGHL Season 39 award show from myself, Grizgoal, and Stonewall Civ. You guys have a great night, and tune in on Tuesday at 9:30. Thanks, guys.